examine the story, it's not much you can do. Because guess what? You're going to continue to keep doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over again, getting the same result. What's up? How you doing? Welcome back to A Moment of Clarity with yours truly, Aaron Thomason. I'm super excited that you're with me, but I want to know, did you bring somebody with you? Did you tell 3 people? Are you putting the big fella to work? All right, listen. So here, clarity breeds confidence. And when we understand who we are, where we are in life, and ultimately where we want to go, we will be able to take the next step in the direction of our goals, our dreams, on the path for sustainable success. All right. And so one of the things that happens in this space, we've talked about feelings and we've talked about, goals and motivation. But here's another thing that we got to do. As we're taking that step in the direction, we are hoping that one thing happens. We're hoping that something begins to transform. And the transformation begins with what? Rewriting your story. Rewriting your story. Because see, when we are stuck in our feelings, when we are in places that are not ideal, that we ultimately didn't see ourselves and didn't want to be in, that is a story we tell ourselves that are based in facts, that are colored with emotions, that allow for us to stay in a space where we're like, man, I don't know about this, or why did this happen to me? Right? And then when we do that, here's what the other thing we do. We start getting into the comparison game. Why didn't this happen to them? Why did this happen to me? What is it about me? Right? All those things allow for us to continue to keep doing what? Reshaping, molding, and continue to build a story that in most cases, most of us are not okay with. We're not okay with the frustration. We're not okay with the lack of productivity. We're not okay with the relationships that haven't worked. We're not okay. But the more we keep going on that story, the more we keep giving that story legs and giving it deeper roots, and the more we keep doing those things, all of a sudden the frustration becomes more. The sadness becomes more. The depression becomes more. It is the rewriting of the story that allows for us to take what's in our minds and allow for it to be our reality if we're willing to rewrite the story. So again, that's part of where we currently are in this moment in our lives. Are you writing a story or continuing to go through a story, sequel after sequel after sequel, on the same path of the same story that you didn't like to begin with? Are you doing that? And if you're doing that, you have to ask yourself, I believe, the first question. The first question is, do you like the story? That's it, right? Do you like the story? Simple yes or no. If you like the story, then you won't change. But if you don't like the story, now it brings us to a point where we got to do something different to figure out how we move ourselves to the next space. Move ourselves to the next phase. Because see, here's the thing. You cannot change what you are willing to tolerate. So if the answer is yes, I like my story, then cool. You can turn this video off. I ain't got nothing for you. I got nothing for you. But guess what? If you are frustrated with the story that you've been telling it, then you got to be willing to rewrite it. All right? So as we talk about willing to rewrite the story, is one, you need to examine your story for the gold. The gold, let's say for the good stuff. Because see, we have a tendency to examine our story to pull out all the flaws, all the disappointments, all the things that didn't happen. But I want you to examine your story for the good stuff. Because see, as you examine your story for the good stuff, you then get a chance to see that even in that story that you've been telling yourself that isn't what you ideally wanted it to be, you then can see that it wasn't as bad as you thought. And there's some good things that happen that you could actually duplicate moving forward if you so choose. I want you to examine the story. Because see, when you examine the story and you get to understand your story and where it is, now you have the ability to say, this part I want to change. This part I want to do different. This part I want to make some. You get a chance to do all that stuff when you're writing and looking. You get a chance to do all that stuff. Right? But if you don't examine the story, it's not much you can do. Because guess what? You're going to continue to keep doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over again, getting the same result, right? So the first thing, if the answer to the first question is, no, I don't like my story, first thing you got to do is examine it. Second thing I need you to do, right? Second thing I need you to do is now, based on the good things that are in your story, the gold that you found, the good stuff in your story, I need you to go duplicate that in your life. All right, I need you to go duplicate that, whatever it is. If you figured out how to be able to manage a small budget and get a lot of things out of it, I need you to be able to do that, because I'm going to believe for you that you're going to get an increase in your salary. So then if you can manage a small budget, you can manage a bigger budget, right? If you found a way to continue to keep treating people nice, no matter how bad they treated you, when you get to the next phase of your life where there's still going to be people that might treat you bad, you won't take it personal and you can then thrive within that environment. See, I want you to take the gold that's in your story and I want you to go duplicate that. Okay? In this same step, I then want you to think through the things where you can be better. Yeah, the things that you can be better. The things that, I probably didn't need to trust that person that much. I saw the red flags. I probably needed to not have done that. That was my ego. Right? You got to have some true reflection, some self-reflection as you're going from examination to see the good stuff and now the things that you can do different, because then it's going to lead us to our third step is now implementation and consistency. That's the third step. Implementation and consistency. Because I'm examining here, right? I'm examining. Then I want you to pull out the gold. I want you to pull out the gold. I want you to pull out the things that you want to do different, right? I want you to examine, pull these things out, and now I want you to go to implementation and consistency. Why is that important? Because when you go double click on the goal to duplicate that, those are things that your mind will consciously say, I'm good at this. And because I'm good at this, it builds your what? Confidence. You get clarity in what it is that you do well. We want that because as we improve, we don't want to abandon the things that we were good at. We want to just double down on those more often, being intentional, but then also in the implementation and the consistency, we also want to look where we can be better. Just take one thing from your story that you say, I might need to be a little bit more patient. I might need to listen a little bit more. Maybe instead of trusting people so quickly up front, maybe I need to phone a friend and see what they think. Whatever it is, take one thing that you can do different, implement it, and stay consistent with that strategy long enough to see it change your story. We all have the ability every day to rewrite our stories. We all have the ability to be different than we were when we went to sleep the day before, the way we were in our 20s or in our 30s, or when we were teenagers or when we were kids. We all have the ability to be different, but we got to be willing to rewrite our stories. And the stories that we tell ourselves that have so much depth, that have so much legs, and have so many weeds in them is because of the things we tell ourselves when nobody else is listening. And I'm simply going to say this again before we close out. If you don't like your story, then I need you to examine. I need you to pull out the good, the gold, and I need you to see for the opportunities to make the changes. And I need you to go to the next step. The last step is implement and be consistent. And if you do that, you will begin to rewrite your story one step, one moment at a time as you head in a different direction towards your goals and dreams for sustainable success. I am so excited about hearing your stories. And that's what I want you to do. Here's the next step I want you to take. I want you to take the next step, and I want you to go down into the comments, see the link, hit book now. And I want you to take the courage to take the next step and get on my calendar and walk me through what you found out about your story. Just take the next step. I want you to take that next step, because as you do all these things this week, you need to tell somebody. And guess what? You're like, I don't know this dude on this camera. That's cool. Tell your friend. In the comments, you can tell me, I told my sister, I told my best friend, I told my pastor. You got to tell somebody, because all the work that you're doing, somebody needs to be able to hold you accountable. So that's the next step. After you do the work, the next step is telling someone so they can hold you accountable. Listen, before we go, give us 3 people. Don't be selfish. And do me a favor, put the big fella to work for you, because you know somebody that needs to rewrite their story. Don't mess up your relationships. Let me do it. They can't touch me. I'm behind the camera. And the last thing I want to leave you with is this. Remember, just because you started out to get better, it doesn't mean that you weren't already good. So until next time, I'll see you then.